Hello again, Vincent here, coming to you from Thornton, Colorado. Sending good vibes to you wherever you are. Why is there a yoga strap in the middle of the mat? It looks kind of silly, but it has a purpose. This is the first of two videos about taking care of our knees. Fundamental standing poses and a few fundamental rules. I like to say we learn by feeling in yoga, and we don't worry too much about rules, but the only specific rules that you'll hear me talking about in my live classes as well as here are when it's about keeping you safe. Number one, we really never lock our knees in yoga. When we lock the knee, it can hyperextend the ligaments and cause too much compression in the whole knee joint itself, leading to problems later on. When I was a kid, knee replacement was a pretty exotic thing. So were hip replacements. They become increasingly common as we get busier and busier and faster, and we don't think about our movement. So some fundamentals for protecting and strengthening your knees. You may be thinking, well, how do we strengthen the knee? It's a joint. It doesn't have muscles, but it's surrounded by muscles. And if we do specific things to take care of those muscles and to use those muscles, they're going to build strength around the knee joint. Yoga's a wonderful thing. We do those stretches and those extensions and the muscle stretch and we feel great. One byproduct is as these muscles get longer, they're not so tight. We know that. Great. But it does make your knee joints get looser, which means they can be more prone to twisting. We all know that's how knees get hurt. So, a few quick poses that we can do every day to help strengthen our knees. And that's why I have this line on my mat, talking about a classic called the warrior pose. And something about a warrior pose is we're on either side of this line. Why? The same reason. Well, when I stand up, my heels, my knees, and my hips are stacked for even distribution of weight and pressure. If we stand cockeyed for a while, we're going to quickly get tired on one side, sore in the joints. If we do things crooked over the long term, that's what wears our joints out. That's why we do the same amount of work on both sides when we're doing our yoga. So getting back to that warrior, just step the right foot forward here. We're still thinking in terms of the knees with the ankles and the hips, all three joints working together. Side view for you. My knee is over my ankle. I don't bring it up here because then the body weight goes into the ligaments and really beats on your knees. We want to pull this knee back. We want to make sure we're able to push through the heel, push through your heel, and have your knee find the home over the ankle. And if we still feel weight falling forward, then that back foot needs to come back some more. We need to open our stance. Your thighs may scream bloody murder, but the muscles are built to lengthen and hold the weight. Other thing we do when we're warriors, bend that back knee, make sure it's not twisting. If it is twisting, then we need to change the position of that back foot, so we don't feel any twisting when we do a careful bend. Now I'm able to push from my hip all the way down through my heel. Let's do that on the other side. So all the time, I'm on either side of the line. What it amounts to is this distance between my heels is not greater than the distance between my hips. It's also not less than that. What happens if we line our heels up? And in some classes you might have been told to do that. It's like one of my trusty yoga books. You put a book on its side like that, well, that's not going to stay up there very long. And if you line up your heels, well, then your body's doing the same thing, and it can never really find a good position. It compromises the integrity of your knees. So I've shown you how to do the warrior correctly, bearing that in mind. Doing the warrior correctly, where we can push the floor with our feet. I'm pushing in two directions. My knee over my ankle, I'm able to push through my heel. Doing the warrior correctly helps ratchet in all these muscles that we've stretched with our down dogs and with our dancer poses and so many other cool poses that we love to do. This helps ratchet in all those muscles, so they're going to give a good snug support of the knee joint and reduce our risk of twisting the knees. That's one key reason why the warrior is a good everyday pose. So one fundamental thing again, if we've got our knee over the ankle but the body still feels like it wants to fall like this, that means we graduated. We're ready to bring that back foot further backward, open up the stance so we can bring the shoulders over the hips. Just like we have our heels aligned with our hips, whether we're like this or like this. We have our shoulders aligned with our hips so the body weight's not falling into that front leg. That's key to success with our warrior pose. Another one I like is warrior number 3. It's easy to get into that from our classic warrior stance. We take the weight off of that back heel and simultaneously you're pushing down through this heel, lengthening this leg so you can pick up your back leg, come into our warrior 3. We're still not locking the knee. We're stacking the hip, stacking the knee, stacking the ankle. We're stacking these 3 joints and controlling in the hip. So it's again, when we come forward, we're lifting the pelvis, lengthening thighs, going into action here, quads and hamstrings. And then we work on bringing the hip, of course, bringing the hips next to each other. Bring it down, take a rest. We want to do that on the other side. So we'll give you a front view this time. We're on either side of our line, able to push through the floor, through our heels, from our hips. Taking the weight off that back heel, getting the weight into that front heel, picking up that back foot. Picking up that back foot into our warrior number 3. Gradually squaring the hips. That's going to take some time. The key is not locking the knee. We want to be able to push the floor through the heel. That means we need a little bend, micro bend in the knee so that we can activate the thighs to push the foot into the floor. Remembering that. Finish off with a tree. Another pose that helps us think about our knees. We're standing on that one leg, stacking the joints, micro bend in the knee. Let's just spin that left knee out, pick up that left foot. Now we're often told don't plant the foot right next to the knee joint. You really can't apply a lot of pressure here. But better to come up or below. It's just a good thing to remember. Your standing leg is going to press the foot, and the foot's going to press the standing leg. They push each other, just like my hands planted together. Lengthening the abs, lifting the rib cage. Still a micro bend in the knee. We're still stacking the hip over the heel with a micro bend in the knee, so we can still push that foot down into the floor. Let's do that on the other side real quick. Now if we're tight on the insides of our legs, and most of us are, that's going to be the biggest thing that drags us down. The second video that follows this one, Yoga for Your Knees, number 2, is going to address that. So remembering, knee over ankle in front. Remembering, heels aligned with hips, and that's why we're on either side of the line. Remembering, stacking the joints and never locking the knees. And that's part 1 of Yoga for Our Knees. Talk to you soon. Namaste.